Hot Springs Village Inside Out is a closer look at the greatness of Hot Springs Village, Arkansas, and the surrounding areas. People, places, experiences. Hot Springs Village is one of the most beautiful places on earth. Join me, Randy Cantrell, and my co-host Dennis Simpson as we engage in weekly conversations to explore Hot Springs Village Inside Out. Today's show is brought to you by Central Arkansas's favorite radio station, KVRE. Find them on the dial at 92.9 FM. Stream them live at kvre.com. RE/MAX of Hot Springs Village. The award-winning RE/MAX of Hot Springs Village is the largest real estate office inside the village with over 30 full-time agents and support staff. Visit them to learn more about this beautiful place to solve your real estate needs. Call them today at 1-800-364-9007. Find them online at explorehsv.com. They are RE/MAX of Hot Springs Village at 1-800-364-9007 or online at explorehsv.com. Ike Eisenhower State Farm. Ike and his award-winning team have been serving the insurance needs of folks all around Hot Springs Village since 1998. Ike has qualified for State Farm's President's Club, Chairman's Circle, and Hot Springs Village Insurance Agent of the Year. Call Ike Eisenhower State Farm today at 501-984-4100. That's 501-984-4100. Find them online at ikeeisenhower.net. Call them today for all your insurance needs because, like a good neighbor, Ike Eisenhower State Farm is there. It's a universal refrain among people who found Hot Springs Village and moved here. We visited and fell in love with the place. Hi, Randy Cantrell here for a vacationing Dennis Simpson, but he'll be back, and eventually we're going to both get back in the saddle together. That sounds kind of weird. People from Iowa, Nebraska, Minnesota, New York, Chicago, California, Florida, Texas, anywhere else say the same thing about Hot Springs Village. We love it here. Now, let me give you my context. Since 1990, I have lived in the Dallas-Fort Worth metro area, a place quickly approaching 8 million people. In the last couple of years, DFW has grown 3 times faster than the average of America's 50 most populated cities. In 2022, the census named DFW as the fastest growing metro area in the country. And since we arrived in 1990, the population has almost doubled. That's right, doubled. Now, I married a girl from DFW, so when we moved here in 1990, she was coming home. It was hardly the same place that she left back in the 70s, in the late 70s, when we were married. And we moved here from the Oklahoma City metro area. This is another large, spread out place. It doesn't have anywhere near the population, but it covers an awful lot of miles and acreage. And you would think coming from a place like Oklahoma City to DFW, that adjustment, might be pretty easy, but it wasn't, because the size difference between the two cities and the cultural difference between the two cities was monumental. The interesting thing is how infrequently you would hear people express how much they would love either place, Oklahoma City or DFW. Now, don't get me wrong. Most of the conversations might begin with a focus on what folks didn't like or things that they even hated. And sure, there were many things that people loved. They loved maybe the shopping, the restaurants, the concerts, the universities, the sporting events, the museums, the zoos, whatever other cultural attractions might appeal to them. But that was then, and this is now. And of course, all across America, Amazon took care of that in-person shopping. Buying online has made shopping malls obsolete. DFW is a place where people love to dine out. I suppose people love to dine out no matter where you're at. Restaurants in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, they come and go with intense frequency. And the people, of course, who make it can make it big. Those who don't, well, they can go broke very quickly. And even legacy restaurants that have been around for decades, many decades, a number of them have been forced to close due to their inability to hire good help. Sometimes it's the inability to renew a lease. And over time, it happens sooner than later after people move. You know, the newness of all the attractions in the area, that dulls. I mean, come on, in DFW, how often are you going to go visit Six Flags or the zoo? How many concerts can you go to? I mean, it's hardly a valid reason to move to a place. Nice things to have nearby. People moving to DFW do so, I think, first and foremost because of the income opportunities. Mostly you will run into people who they just snagged a better career opportunity. That historically has been the draw of any big city. You know, lots of people, lots of businesses, lots of career opportunities, lots of money, lots of everything else that goes with that. The nightlife, the dining, the entertainment, the cultural attractions, as well as in this part of the country, DFW also represents a really diverse economic base. You know, Oklahoma City and areas like that are so dependent on oil, and while Texas is known for that, the DFW market is so vast and so big and so diverse, it can be a little bit more, perhaps, resilient to the economic ups and downs. We like to think, and I guess we're right to a point, that the pandemic changed everything as far as folks moving from one place to another. You know, we would hear of people fleeing big cities like DFW for places that might offer a better quality of life, like Hot Springs Village. And yet, from 2020 to 2022, DFW exploded with growth compared to other metro markets. And so I'm really not sure if there are any universal truths about all of this. Even so, I have personally talked with a number of people inside Hot Springs Village who made a decision to leave a metropolitan area, some Dallas-Fort Worth, and to get here because they could work remotely. And some have been guests on our podcast. Now, I'm going to admit that there is something addictive to being in a place like Dallas-Fort Worth. I mean, you feel like you're in the center of the world. You're not, but it can kind of feel that way. New Yorkers, they get my vote as the top place where people can feel that way. You know, because there's just this sensation, man, it's all happening here. And well, so much of it is if you're in New York City. And that energy, that pace, that frenetic going about, it can be exhilarating. It can be energizing, especially when you're younger. Rhonda and I were 33 years old when we moved our young family, to DFW. The kids were in early elementary school. True confession, a place like Hot Springs Village, it would not have appeared on my radar when I was 33. I was grinding, I was climbing, I was filled with ambitions that a place like DFW just fuels big time. I mean, never mind that almost nobody says, I love it here, even though many of us, myself included, we like it. We like DFW very much. Enter Hot Springs Village in the year 2018. Rhonda and I had turned 61. It didn't have anything to do with retirement. It didn't have anything to do with approaching retirement age, mainly because I don't have any plans to retire. I love what I do, which is coaching city government leaders and their teams. You're curious? Go to growgreat.com, growgreat.com if you are that curious. Well, as the summer of 2018 approached, Rhonda and I were planning a trip. It was nothing fancy. It was nothing long, just a getaway for the better part of a week. Now, the Ozarks have been among our favorite places. It's an 8-hour drive from Dallas-Fort Worth, and I didn't want to drive that far. And so I set out to find a place that had very different topography from Dallas-Fort Worth. I wanted big trees and hills and something just very different from north central Texas. So lots of Googling, and it revealed there's this place, Hot Springs Village. Now, at first, I dismissed it because I knew of Hot Springs. That did not check a box for me. No offense, Hot Springs. I just was not looking for any place anywhere near that touristy. I wasn't looking to escape the city for a little town. I was looking to get out of town. So deeper investigation revealed that this place, Hot Springs Village, it wasn't some suburb of Hot Springs, as I had first suspected, but it was its own place. Turns out it was a gated community, about 15,000 citizens, a property owners association, not a municipality. Well, as a guy that works with city government leaders, I had big questions about that. The largest gated community in the world, eight golf courses, 11 lakes. Okay, never mind. I don't do lake stuff and I don't golf, but it sounded awesome and it looked appealing. So I jump over onto Airbnb and I'm looking for a place to stay. And that's when I come in contact with one Dennis Simpson. Now, it turns out that the place we booked was his bedroom, his basement bedroom suite there on Lake DeSoto. I don't remember. We stayed 3 or 4 nights. We walked every trail that we could find. And after 3 or 4 days, we really didn't have any idea what had happened. I doubt we saw even 5% of the village. And we left really not having any kind of a clue about where we had just been. We just knew we loved it. Well, okay, maybe it's more appropriate to say we were smitten by it. For us, it was ideal. For us, it was pretty perfect. There's no place that is perfect, but it sure felt close. It suited us. Now, I grew up mostly in Louisiana, so being around big trees, especially big pine trees, that's just in my DNA, so you could check that box. I've never lived where the terrain is mountainous, and that was pretty awesome. I mean, come on, now I'm checking a box that I didn't even know I had. I've lived almost every year of my life in cities. And Hot Springs Village was a village. It wasn't a city. And it seemed quaint enough to suit me. So you could check another box. Now, I don't crave, nor have I ever lived craving to be in the country. I've got friends that they think nothing more than, man, they'd love to have a lot of acreage and give me acres of land and I'm not going to have a clue what to do with it. Put me on a tractor. Somebody is going to get hurt, maybe killed, and it's probably going to be me. Hot Springs Village was not country. It was not remote. It was quiet. It was peaceful. And people continue to ask me, what kind of a place is it? And mostly people will ask, well, is it like living in the country? And I say, no, it's not like living in the country. It's like living in the park. For over 4 years, we continued to make our treks over to the village, usually a week at a time. And during the pandemic, we made more trips than we ever had. I don't know. We came over 4, 5, maybe even 6 times that year. And it likely took us spending, I'm guessing, more than a month here. Now, that's the accumulation of staying about a week at a time. And after about 4 of those kind of trips, now we had a better sense of the place. And we stayed at a variety of Airbnb places that helped us get a truer picture of the village. I mean, the hosts, 100%. The hosts were always spectacularly helpful. They were kind. They were generous. Neighbors, they would see Texas plates on our car and they would engage us. Hey, where in Texas you guys from? Okay, well, that was if they were from up north. Where in Texas are y'all from? That's what they'd say if they were from the South. We stayed on golf courses. We stayed on lakes. We stayed on properties that were remote interior places that were surrounded by woods. And with every stay, we fell more deeply in love with the place. And we were already deeply in love with each other. Since 1975, we've been a couple. Since 1978, we've been married. You know, they say timing's everything, and the timing was right. It was right for us. It was right for the village. And it turns out our fall trip in the year 2018 coincided with some personal hardships. About a week before our scheduled trip to Dennis's bedroom suite, we were blindsided by trouble that we didn't quite see coming. It happens. You've been there. We've all been there. And so we already had this trip booked, and so we leveraged that trip not to recreate, but to gather ourselves. And so we spent hours and hours, day upon day, walking, talking, praying, just figuring out. Because for us, the perplexing question in our life was, okay, now what? And maybe Hot Springs Village is a special place to us because that was the circumstance of our life when we very first visited. Hard to say, but it's part of our story, and I'm sure it plays a role in there somewhere. At a time when we needed some peace, some quiet, some serenity, as we were pondering the future and what we could, if anything, do about it, the village showed up for us. And I would say we showed up for the village. And so it became our place of respite. It became our recharging station. I started podcasting in 1999. Leaningtowardwisdom.com. Leaningtowardwisdom.com was my first podcast. And very quickly, because of my podcasting background, I had the idea of beginning a show, a podcast focused on this new place that I loved, this Hot Springs Village place that I didn't even know existed. I did act on it. I just didn't. I took a lot of notes. I was paying really close attention to what was going on here. And that was in the fall, winter of 2019. Another year passed, more trips to the village. And by the end of 2020, my mind was made up. Lord willing, I was going to launch a podcast to shine a bright light on this place because I was more smitten by this place than any place I've ever lived, any place I have ever visited. And I'm so at being traveled. I'm not some world adventurer, but I've been to a few places. Been to England, been to Hawaii. By the early spring of 2021, I had reached out to one Dennis Simpson, somebody that I did not know, except I was paying attention to him online. And while we had been a guest of his in our very first stay, I had maybe a 5-minute interaction with him as an Airbnb host. My intuition was that I needed two qualities in a co-host. And all the podcasting I had done up to this point was really just me. I hadn't done a whole lot of co-hosting. But I felt like the first thing I needed was some resident expert. Now, I'm defining expert as somebody that could answer my questions. Enter this native Arkansas guy who could help satisfy my curiosity. And if he didn't know, then he would know who knew. Second, I needed somebody more extroverted than me. I'm an introvert who looks like an extrovert, but I don't have any interest in changing, and so I needed a partner who could complement whatever I might bring to the table. And during our first Zoom call, Dennis very quickly agreed. And by June of 2021, this podcast that you're watching, that you're listening to, HSV Inside Out, by June of 21, we were up, we were running, it was off. And the podcast grew. And our community of listeners and watchers, our audience, it grew. Clara Nicolosi, Remax of Hot Springs Village, was our very first sponsor. Her support, her encouragement, her admiration for our mission, it was crucial. It's still crucial. If you're looking for any help with real estate, inside or outside Hot Springs Village, you need to call Clara's office today at 501-922-3777. That's 501-922-3777. You can also call toll-free. Isn't everything toll-free now? I don't know. 1-800-364-9007. That's 1-800-364-9007. You could go online. Yeah, how about that? On your phone or any device. hotspringsvillagehouses.com. That's easy. hotspringsvillagehouses.com. Well, Clara, we describe Clara as the unofficial queen of the village. She promotes the village at every turn. She supports who knows how many charitable events and activities, and she is always, always, always involved in shining a bright, positive light on this place that we all love. Turns out our mission with our podcast was congruent with Clara's mission. I didn't know that when we started the show. And it has been a perfect partnership for Hot Springs Village Inside Out, and I hope for Remax of Hot Springs Village. Not long after that, the unofficial king of the village, he began to support our show. Ike Eisenhower State Farm. And like Clara, he's ridiculously committed to the community. He is a force behind so many charitable events and causes that support the growth of our community. And he also happens to own and operate this award-winning insurance agency, Ike Eisenhower State Farm. His office is right across from Sonic, and you can call his office today at 501-984-4100. 501-984-4100. You can also find him online at ikeeisenhower.net. So the podcast is growing. We had begun some very important relationships. We also had right out of the gate almost an exclusive media partner in KVRE. You can stream them live at kvre.com, or you can dial them up. But we had some important relationships, most notably John Paul. John Paul was the interim general manager at the time for the Hot Springs Village Property Owners Association. Clara and Ike were supportive, and they were critical in various ways. John Paul, he was in grand company when it came to the support that we got, largely giving us access to his insights and to the various leaders inside the POA. These were experts, and these were people that could and would share their knowledge and their experience with us and with our audience, and it was terrific. So big shout out to John Paul. We owe him a debt of gratitude. Well, straight away, Dennis and I start getting feedback. And the feedback we're getting from listeners and viewers it's coming from all over America. People are learning more about this place that they'd never heard of. People are visiting for the first time. Some people are buying property. Some people are buying houses. And the feedback was and still is really encouraging. And in my daily job of coaching leadership, I define leadership in 3 ways: influence, a focus on others, and doing for others what they're unable to do for themselves. And from the beginning, this podcast, Hot Springs Village Inside Out, was aimed at trying to accomplish all 3 of those things: influence, a focus on others, and doing what others might not be able to do themselves. And it really felt good for us to know, and it still feels good to know, that we are accomplishing these goals that I most wanted to achieve. Well, now fast forward through lots of ups and downs, mostly ups, but we bought a piece of property that overlooked Lake Lago. This property was on Geronte Way. I remember Googling, I didn't know what Geronte meant. It meant manager. And as this lifelong business guy, well, that seemed pretty fitting. And we had visions. We had visions of building something on our lot on Geronte Way. A year of decluttering our house in Dallas-Fort Worth, a house that we'd lived in for over 20 years, that began. And it was a lovely neighborhood. Big trees, well, by DFW standards. It was a place that, honestly, when we moved in there, I didn't think I'd ever leave. But that was pre-HSV. And as we were preparing to sell our house, we were exhausting ourselves by purging all that stuff that cluttered our lives. I kidded with my son, who's now 43, that he should thank me, because now when we die, he's not going to have to do this because we've already done it. He was appreciative. We missed that real peak real estate buying frenzy, that resulted in just these crazy inflated real estate prices. But we did kind of catch the tail end of it, and we sold our house in Dallas-Fort Worth. 2 weeks prior to closing, by the sale of our house, I showed Rhonda this house on my phone. I'd been watching this house, but I was watching a lot of new houses, and I wasn't shopping for a house, new or otherwise. What I was doing is I was paying attention to the construction prices, the selling prices of new houses so that I could try to ascertain what it might cost us to build on our lot. Okay, but this house had some curb appeal to me. It had a price that kind of seemed right in the wheelhouse of where we wanted to be. Rhonda didn't have any idea that I was looking at these things, tracking these things. But 2 weeks before we were set to close on the sale of our house in Dallas, I showed it to her on my phone, and I said, tell me why we shouldn't think about making a run at this house. Now, we're going to close on our house in a couple of weeks. And she looked at the description, she looked at the pictures, and we agreed, well, maybe we should. The big question we had mostly was about the floor plan. All right, I mean, the pictures look great, but come on, most real estate pictures, they look great. But we couldn't get any real kind of a sense of, okay, I wonder where this room is and where's that room. And so we did some investigation. We got our hands on the layout, and we would be cash buyers selling our house, and we could close quickly. So we made an offer, and it was accepted. And now I just needed to get my son, a licensed home inspector with his own company here in DFW, Ryan, R-Y-A-N, inspects, ryaninspects.com. He's a TikTok star. Okay, I mean, I kid him. I don't know. He's got a couple 100,000 subscribers. He's got almost 5 million views. So, yeah, if you care, ryaninspects.com. That's his website, but there's links to his TikTok from there. You can give him a closer look. He'd appreciate it. Tell him his dad sent you. He had never been to Hot Springs Village. I'm not sure, unless he was just passing, I'm not sure he'd ever been to Arkansas, I'll tell you the truth. So we get up early one morning, and we leave Dallas-Fort Worth, and we drive over here, and he inspects the place, and he gives me a thumbs up. It was during that trip that we surprised Dennis, too, because I had not told Dennis one thing. In fact, if you go to the show notes, go to our website, hsvinsideout.com, and just find this episode, and I'll embed the video of the link where we kind of surprised Dennis. It's only a few seconds long, but we pulled it off. So we close on selling our DFW house on a Friday afternoon. Later that afternoon, we sign a lease on an apartment in DFW that's in the same neck of the woods where we had lived for a long, long time, a place that was close enough to the grandkids and the family. And then we head straight to Hot Springs Village to close on this new house in the Lake Coronado neighborhood. And we were scheduled to close on that on Monday. So all of this happens on a Friday in Texas, and now on Monday morning, we're set to close. By the way, it was an awesome Monday, thanks to Marla Caldwell. So I need to give a shout out to Marla and the team over at Advantage Title and Escrow. I can't recommend them highly enough. If you need services like that, there isn't anybody better. So you can call Marla at 501-984-4106. It's 501-984-4106. Let me give a shout out too to Wendy Rogers. She was spectacular at handling, a lot of the details. As a team, I can't imagine a better experience. I tell you, the regret I've got, I didn't get a picture. I did not get a picture with them on that day to memorialize this event because, well, frankly, I think I'm still in some shock that we're actually buying a house inside Hot Springs Village. I'm sure that Monday I wasn't quite positive it was real. Their office is right by Sonic, so you need to check out their fine services. We're standing in the parking lot of Advantage Title, and Ron and I are fixing to head back to DFW because it was going to take a little bit of time for the funds to be wired to the seller, and he didn't want to give us possession of the house until the deal was funded, and it was I completely understood it. But I had a big truck to be loaded And then I was going to drive that back to Hot Springs Village to the new house like the next afternoon. And that truck would have about 95% of everything we owned. And that was going to happen. I was going to drive over on Tuesday afternoon and get there late at night. So we would have possession of the house by late Tuesday. I was exhausted just thinking about it. So Ron and I head over to the house and to take a look at our new house, a house that we don't have keys for yet. We can't get inside yet. Our new home inside Hot Springs Village. And I took a selfie. I'll post that too over in the show notes for this episode over at hsvinsideout.com. We're standing in front of the house. It's Monday, March the 6th, 2023. And it's sometime before 11 a.m. when we stand there in amazement that our Hot Springs Village dream is now a reality. Now, of course, it's going to be weeks of exhausting work coupled with cervical neck pain and hand numbness before it's all fully going to sink in. You know, from a date night in Oklahoma on July the 2nd, 1975, when Rhonda and I first went out, to saying vows to each other on January the 2nd, 1978 in Fort Worth, Texas, to here standing in front of our new home, our new future home in Hot Springs Village. It had been years in the making. And like most dreams, a lot of the fun is in the anticipation. A lot of the fun is in the work and the effort and the planning. But, you know, come on, enough is enough. And at some point, all we want is that reality of our pursuit. Today, we look at that selfie that I took of us standing in front of the house, and we laugh about how tired we look in that picture. Now, I didn't take one. I should have. If I would have taken a picture 2 weeks later, listen, we look fresh and refreshed in that selfie that I posted. It was hard. It was very, very hard, but it was totally worth it. We bought a house in Hot Springs Village because we love the village. We bought a house in Hot Springs Village because it fulfills so many things that we've been pursuing at this stage of our lives together. Peace, quiet, community-focused, neighborly, secure, clean. From our first visit until now, we have described the feeling as this large exhale, this sense of relief and comfort. It's the same exact feeling I had when I pulled up to the gate the first time we entered and thought, well, this is different. Gave them our name, said that we were going to be guests of Dennis Simpson, and we drove in the West Gate, and we're just like, yeah, it felt like that. It felt just like that. Is it perfect here? No, no place is perfect, but it's close enough for us. And in all the best ways. Now, as for all those big city amenities, it's different. Not worse, but different. Dining, I doubt there's a week goes by that I don't ask Rhonda, you know, how many good places do people need? I mean, we don't need many. Now, I could mention a vast number of restaurant owners who are close friends of our show. We've had a few of them on our podcast. These are hardworking folks. They provide great food, great service. They fight that daily fight that is required to succeed in tremendously difficult times, in a difficult, challenging business. Some are inside, some are outside Hot Springs Village. And if you crave something that is not provided right here, then there's Hot Springs, there's Little Rock. Entertainment? Well, thanks to our buddy Terry Wiley, Parks and Rec Director over at the HSV POA. I mean, Terry and his staff, they keep the Woodlands booked with shows. Okay, you want something more? You want something a little more high-flying? Okay, within an hour, you're likely going to find most of whatever might be missing at the moment. And there's always Memphis. There's always DFW for something super big. Terry went to see Pearl Jam in DFW. Right, so there's that. Listen, for me, nothing replaces walking Cedar Creek Trail or many of the other trails. Nothing replaces sitting on the back porch in a rocker listening to the sounds of the evening or the morning. I live in an area inside Hot Springs Village with high-speed internet. Now, quite a few neighbors work remotely from home, just like we do. My work is mostly accomplished by way of Zoom calls, and when necessary, my clients, mostly in the DFW area where my family and my 5 grandkids reside, that's where these people are. And so for us, the ideal is splitting our time between Hot Springs Village and DFW, and that's just as good as it gets. If it weren't for family and a few in-person clients in Texas, Hot Springs Village would check all the boxes for us. We'd never leave. I mean, I tell everybody who will listen, Hot Springs Village is the place we love. DFW has the people that I love most, family. But we love the people of Hot Springs Village too. And thankfully, we've got enough love to share. I appreciate you clicking play. We appreciate you very, very much for being part of the audience for Hot Springs Village Inside Out. It's just been a great ride so far, and kids, we're just beginning. Thanks for watching and listening to Hot Springs Village Inside Out, a weekly podcast starring Hot Springs Village, Arkansas. Visit the website at hotspringsvillageinsideout.com.